It's time for another episode of the Josh Cast. I wonder if you can hear the classical music that's playing as I'm commuting and don't worry, the place I'm commuting to, there's I think one or two other people other there. So I just want to assure everyone I'm following the rules of the quarantine. I'm not talking to anyone. Oh, by the way, I just want to announce that because we have to quarantine, because we have to socially distance during this time. I just want to announce that I am no longer going to be actively dating. So to all the ladies and all the men out there, it's gonna be a dry spell for you. It really is. There's, I don't know what you're gonna do for the next 3 months without having this hot piece of Ashkenazi Jewish ass. But did I even say Ashkenazi right? I don't think I did. I really don't think I did. And I used a curse word, so now this is totally not family friendly. It's going to destroy my demo. I don't want to. I'm tired of talking about the whole virus thing. I don't want to talk about that. I want this to be an escape. I need this to be an escape for me right now, today. That's what I need. So I don't want to. I don't want to talk about it. What do I want to do? What would I talk about if there were not an apocalypse? What would I be talking about? All right, I'm seeing one of those people driving in what looks like an old police car, which always throws me. Other comedians have talked about this. That has thrown me as well. Thrown them as well. I know this. It's a well-worn premise, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The people who buy the fake police cars. What's the thinking? I need to get to know one of those people, because they have to know that they're giving people a mind trip. They have to know that must be part of the appeal. Because I imagine they just go to, I think you get them at auctions when they auction off the old cars. But that's, why else would you buy it? I want to, I want to stress people out. I want to passive aggressively stress people out. What kind of car should I buy? Got it. Former cop car. And you know what? Now that I describe those people and what they're like, there's a part of me, frankly, that sees the beauty of it and almost applauds them. You know what? Good for you. Yes, way to be a passive-aggressive putz. I almost admire it, I gotta say, now that I think about it. I'll tell you, it's funny. I asked myself, what do I really want to talk about today? And the thing that came up, the first thing, even though I've talked about it for two podcasts already, is Final Fantasy VII. I keep wanting going back. There's something about Final Fantasy, the fantasy of it. I don't know if it's the fantasy or the final, but something about it is just really appealing to me. So what else do I recall about that game? Knights of the Round. Let's talk about this. This is getting really deep into Final Fantasy lore. But here's what I remember. My friend who played the game, there's a side mission where you go to an island and you spend another 19 hours and you can get something called the Knights of the Round. And this is a spell. So basically, how it works is this. Let's say I get into a fight with somebody in the world of Final Fantasy, and I have the Knights of the Round. I summon 10 knights out of a vortex who come and they slash and they hack at the bad guy. And it's incredibly dramatic, and it's very powerful. And I remember, this is what I remember, is that my friend, he got this powerful spell. And he was very meticulous in setting everything up. And it gets to the point where it goes against the final bad guy, Sephiroth. All right. And he's about to go into battle with Sephiroth, and he spends, and I kid you not, at least 1 hour just preparing all of his weapons. I don't even fully understand what he was doing, but he kept selecting one weapon and moving it from one block to another block like that for an hour. Just rearranging weapons, because it's not real-time action. It's an RPG, I think, is what they call it. But it was literally for an hour. I was sitting there watching my friend basically do the digital equivalent of move things around in his pockets. And finally, he's ready. We go up against the bad guy. This is the total ultimate bad guy, Sephiroth. This is the final boss. This is it. The hardest thing to beat. He goes up against the bad guy. He hits Knights of the Round. The 10 Knights come and hit him. He hits Knights of the Round again. The 10 Knights come around and hit him again. Boom, game over, villain defeated. That was it. And we were shocked. Wait, that's it? There's no more? Surely there has to be. Surely it couldn't have been. So you know what? There's a lesson there. And the lesson is, the more you prepare, the easier it is to defeat a warrior who only has one wing, basically. That's the moral of that story there. Yeah, so that was that's Final Fantasy. I'm good. I'm glad we covered that. I feel better talking about that. Much better. Now what do I talk about? I don't know. This is the one nice thing about this situation with this podcast, is that there's nobody. The only person who is getting down on me for not having perfect quality content is me. All right, well, here's an admonition. I still have not stocked anything. I just have some Gatorade and water. That's it. I don't know. I'm really testing my denial levels here. I know I said I wouldn't talk about the virus, but now we got to talk about some virus thoughts. Oh, this is the other thing, by the way. I'm going to say this. I'm noticing that there are certain people. There was a specific. Should I talk? You know what? I don't want to talk about it. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that because that's a situation where I'm making fun of someone else, and I don't want to do that. Not in this time. Not in this world. Self-deprecation is the only way I'm going to get through this. No, I should rephrase. Self-deprecation is the only way I am probably not going to get through this. There we go. That's more accurate. Man, it's just a ghost. Well, there's still people about and about, so it's not quite a ghost town. But hopefully, no, I'm not. I don't want to talk about the. How do I close this? That's what I got to figure out. I got to think of a good closing thought here. Yeah, for me, the thing it's going back to talking about movies, TV, that kind of thing. What might that be? What's another thing? What's another game that we would play? Ah, yes. The Star Trek game. Let's talk about the Star Trek game. It was a Star Trek role-playing game, not a computer game, but an actual, roll the dice Star Trek game. I played it with my dad, I played it with my friend. Very often the three of us would play together. I've decided to nickname the game the Virginity Generator. It was... we didn't play it the way that you were supposed to play it according to the directions. Basically what happened was we got the game, and instead of doing it the way as written, my dad sort of just kind of created a simpler way to do it. And then we played it that way for years. And it was finally, after a few years, I said, wait, is this the way that it actually says to play it? And then we tried that other way, and I think as I recall, I like that other way better. But then we just went back to doing the way that he just invented a way to play it. We bought a role-playing game. It had a book on how to play the game and everything to do. And he looked at it and went, I'm going to come up with an easier way to do it. Maybe his concern was that it would be too complicated for me or for us. So he basically can't. So to this day, I have no idea if this particular Star Trek game, I don't even know how to play it. I know how to play the version that we came up with, that my dad came up with. And basically, you got your ship. You can choose a bunch of different ships. You play the Enterprise. You can play the Excelsior. They came up with a bunch of different kinds of ships. There was the McKinley. That was a piece of crap, as I recall. And basically, you roll the dice to see how far you move and what you can move. And then if you shoot somebody, you roll the dice to see what the damage is. And the one thing I remember is the way that we came up with it was if you roll 10 and it hit engineering, all your power systems are down. You can't do it. You can't move. You're dead. It's over. And if you rolled, your shields might go down. And there were little sheets that Dad had to keep printing out that we would get. We might all soon be playing this game, guys. Oh, here's another thing I want to share with you. I did one of those online quizzes. Like, do you know which Star Trek character this is? Who are these 20 Star Trek characters? And I found another mistake. They said that Ezri Dax was the communications officer. She was not the communications officer. She was the ship's counselor, specifically the station's counselor. Because after Jadzia Dax died at the end of Season 7, Ezri Dax inherited her symbiote at the beginning of Season 8 and became the counselor for Deep Space Nine. The funny thing is that before all of this coronavirus stuff, after going off on that rant, I would have ended with, and that's why I'm going to die alone. But now I feel like I can button that with, and that's why we are all going to die alone, together. We are all going to die alone together. That is where we are going with this thing. That is how this is proceeding. We are all going to die alone together. Fantastic. Truly fantastic. Oh man, what else? Well, there's a line of people, but it looks like there's a line of people outside of Trophy King. I don't think they're waiting for Trophy King. I think they're waiting for something else, but it would be hilarious if they were waiting for Trophy King. Oh, it's the gun store. Oh, okay. That's great. And they're not observing. Now, I will say this because I was reading this article that people in Baltimore authorities were asking the gang members to stop shooting each other because they're taking up hospital beds that may be needed for the virus. And one thing I will say, you got to give props to the gang people for shooting each other because at least it's one activity that you can do standing 6 feet or more away. So at the very least, they're observing social distancing. It's extreme social distancing, really. That's depressing. That is depressing. Yes, reading that. Oh, here's the big one. Here's my closer. Here's my closer. Now they're saying that more and more young people are actually getting sick and seriously ill, and that it's affecting more young people in a serious way than previously believed. And here's the problem with that. If you're a young person and you get it, and it gets bad enough and you need to be put on a ventilator, if there aren't enough ventilators, they're going to have to start choosing who gets the ventilator and who doesn't get the ventilator. Boy, this coronavirus is like one global Russian roulette, is what it feels like. Like, am I going to get a little sick? Am I not going to get sick at all? Am I going to get a bullet to the head? One of those. And the thing, I'm reading this, and my first thought should be, all right, I've got to just wash my hands. I got to do this. But there's a part of me that's still clinging to denial. Oh, they're overblowing it. It's no big deal. It's going to be fine. Like, I didn't know I was this good at denial. That's what, if the coronavirus has taught me one thing, it's that my denial skills so much better than I thought. I used to think I was this cynical, I was sober, I was always, the one worrying, but man, I didn't realize how much there really is to worry about. Thank you, coronavirus, for showing me how to become the Jew I always knew I could be. Oh my goodness. And what a perfect way to end this podcast. As I'm pulling up to my destination, no one else on the road except a bicyclist that I gotta slow down behind. It never fails. Where was that in Stephen King's The Stand? The chapter where they're driving down the road and there's no one because everyone is dead, and then they get caught behind a bicyclist. And they gotta slow down. I'm telling you, that bicyclist was going to Vegas. And that is a very deep, deep Stand reference. And that is where I will leave you today.